Hello, I am Terry Saka, Chief Strategist of Wealth Transfer. We're going to be getting into strategic financial intelligence and tactical analysis of what's really going on in the world. Stay tuned. Before we get started here, I want to say welcome to Chicago and welcome to San Francisco. You are new markets that are introduced to wealth transfer. So for starters, let me just give you a quick update of what the wealth transfer is. The wealth transfer isn't exactly what you might think. Of course, it is referring to your wealth, but it's referring to the wealth of the wicked being transferred to the innocent. How that's going to impact you. What we're going to get into when we talk about strategic financial intelligence, and we're going to get into the angles of tactical analysis. We're going to present information, theories, as well as raw data. And I am more about the data, I think, than anything else. Raw data you are going to be exposed to because that raw data helps you see what I'm saying is actually true. Wealth transfer is also about truth in the finance world. We are not in the fiat element of the finance. We're more about the actual real wealth defined by the Constitution, defined by the Bible, and we're going to expose those strategies that let's just say, we won't go too crazy, say the elites or even to the higher ends of the Illuminati, right? But what are the cartels trying to keep from you? What knowledge do they want to keep away from you? And what are they trying to feed you to have you react in certain ways, right? And we all know this. But our lives are busy and we're consumed with our family and our friends and all the other issues, if not AT&T or something else with cable problem, right? So I think you're going to really enjoy. For the new markets, we do want to welcome, and for our regular audience, I know you notice something is different. Set. We are involved in a wonderful, I have to say, you got to see the crew here. I have more people around right now giving me cue, and it's actually a little harder than what we used to do. So for our regular audience, I think you're going to find some changes, but I think you're going to find them just stunning in quality and the ability to get the information to you in maybe a smoother way than I was doing before. So I'm excited for it. So this is a temporary set for a few weeks while we're moving into our new facilities. And once that's done, we're going to start getting into a higher level. And the irony is we've had tremendous words spoken into our lives. It's time to go to the next level. And I think that is in the quality of information delivered. For those in Chicago and San Francisco, we've been around for about 5 years on Christian television. And in that time frame, we've been able to teach what has been evolving over these years. And that has made a big impact on people's lives. So I'm going to get right into it. This is going to be some pretty hard data that just kind of goes right to the point. But I think as you get to know how the program evolves, you'll see this data is macro in nature. So to some extent, you're going to see the philosophies. Well, here's a macro picture and how it impacts our micro life, meaning our internal inside bubble of life. We want to show you what's happening globally that's kind of bringing that pressure to us. And what is the pressure? We all know, right? We're going to the stores. We have purchasing and buying power issues. We have thoughts about what investments we need to do in order to have sustained buying power. And I think even for Chicago, this is pretty new when they came out showing the tremendous liability to the pension system. The pension system is going to be an issue. And that's a concern, I think, for each and every one of us. But we all have IRAs, we all have retirement accounts. And I think understanding proper, tangible asset to real world fiat investing, and you start to see the dynamic, you'll be able to protect yourself in ways that maybe be able to withstand some of the withdrawals or downsizing of those pensions. So I know that's a regional word, but for the rest of the country, don't think for a second that that's not something we all have to be concerned with. So I want to jump right in because a lot of people seem to think since the 2008 time frame, we actually have been getting better. The economy has been growing, and that's obviously the narrative. I mean, after $10 trillion of liquid injection, and put it this way, after $150 trillion added to the global debt, $15 trillion added in new printed currencies globally by the central banks, you can only understand that to some extent we're probably moving in the right direction, right? Well, believe it or not, no. We're 10 trillion deeper in debt since we had the last, what they call Great Recession, right? Which really was a Great Depression. We just didn't know it because we had debit cards instead of staying in lines for the cheese. So I want to get in and hit you with some data that happened in it was about fall of 2015. And now all of you remember back in the time at fall of 2015 when the market started collapsing. We were off more than 10%. We were coming down to a point where it started to become not so much a rush for the gates, but it became an issue in the average person's mind where it's time to get out of this market. But we were saved by the plunge protection team, folks, and we're going to get into that a little later on. But the plunge protection team is your dynamic and wonderful central bank and your top tier global banks as well as U.S. banks. And you're going to probably capture some sarcasm to that, but that'll be okay. But let's get into this particular piece here. And this is getting into what happened in the September timeframe. Now, this is September in 2015, remember, and this is known, for those that were spiritually in tune to this was known as the Shemitah. And the Shemitah was a 7-year cycle of either blessing and cursing. Now, what's interesting about that is the finances actually followed that Shemitah cycle. And we've documented down from not just the 9/11 timeframe, but then the 2007 to 2008, and then now where we're at. Now, this one didn't hit the cycle, right? For all those following the Shemitah, for all those with Jonathan Kahn, and here's the cycle, and here's the pressure, we had a lot of work, not work, let's just say a lot of attention when that Shemitah cycle took place. People kind of perked up. And all of a sudden, well, it didn't happen. We didn't see a catastrophic collapse. We didn't see these big windfall losses and just screams and chaos, right? Or did we? So in this image here behind me, it's what we call something did blow up in the mid-September timeframe. And without getting too crazy, I just want to illustrate that in that period, there was literally about $400–500 billion derivative, I would just say hiccup. Derivative is really just an asset that is made up, it's really a fake paper asset that's made up of other, let's say, leveraged or collateralized assets, meaning, sounds kind of confusing already, right? Because most of them are kind of fake, they're really not real, they're made up of something just to control or move capital and equity. But derivatives control our markets, folks, and I encourage you to go deeper into what a derivative is. Put it this way, it was the 2008 market crash that brought the exposure of the derivative market. So what you're seeing here in the chart, and the small little blip on the left there, that's actually to 2008. Now, in this, it's short-term injection of treasury collateral. Now, that would be kind of what you call the plunge protection team. They don't have, well, let's just say they don't have any assets at all because they're $4 trillion in the hole. They don't really have anything backed up. They say they do, and I know folks, they're telling you that they're going to use these treasuries and bring them back in or sell them back into the market. And I'm telling you right now, unless they can come up with another swap to print the fake currency to do a swap, you're not bringing those derivatives or you're not selling off those treasuries. $4 trillion worth, nobody's buying it unless we have a new country that has a brand new currency that we can hawk them to. So just know that what the Fed and the Treasury are dealing with will never be resolved like they say it is. It's all kind of, I wouldn't say gimmicks or accounting in that respect, but it is definitely not legitimate. So derivatives are controlling our market system. And specifically intangible assets like gold and silver, the best way to explain the derivative is that the silver and gold are being manipulated at tunes of about 600 ounces in the vault 600 ounces sold into the market for 1 ounce of silver in the vault. So you can just visualize that. Let's say an elephant is sitting on a spring, right? Once that elephant steps off, you're going to have true reckoning of value. Derivatives control that though. They're selling off all this gold and silver on paper they don't own. That's the same thing that happened to the housing bubble in 2008. That's the same thing you're seeing with interest rates manipulations, bond manipulations, and swaps. So what you're seeing on this chart in 2008 on the left there, the little blip, you will see that the injection of capital and liquidity, and this is interesting, think about this, in 2008 it was the big crash, but look at how much liquidity was injected, not very much. And you come all the way across here to 2015, and look at that if you were evaluating an earthquake, right? You ever see the tremor lines? Look at the yellow at the very right. That was an absolute implosion in the market system to the tune of hundreds of billions. The market was already on its way to catastrophic collapsing, no different than in '08. But because the plunge protection team is available now with fake currency to inject into the system, they turned it around and literally supported that market. We have the trades. We could show on chart where it was sold off and purchased right back into it. So I think you're going to find that for those that don't believe something happened, it did. And I want to get into now a little bit of why. Number one, we protected it. And two, what's been taking place ever since that. So what I'm going to do before I get into that stretch of it, I want to take a quick break and I'll be right back with you.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. Now, as I got into showing you that the 2015 reckoning took place actually on target with the Shemitah. And, you know, I'm a big fan of that because I was a cycle analyst with it. I actually did the market analysis going way back, believe it or not, and I found some tremendous correlations. So I wanted to illustrate that it did take place, folks, and now this was in 2015, mind you. So it was already 7 years after the great so-called recession. And yet we were being told that everything is okay, but was it okay? No. What started happening though in the world that changed the way we viewed, number one, our financial control, two, our ability to manipulate, and I know people are not going to probably like that part of it, we are tremendous financial manipulators because we control the SWIFT. And the SWIFT is the interbank transfer system for countries to do trades with one another, and they use the SWIFT code financial system to do that, and of course we control that. So we're able to, let's just say, put the pressure on other countries if they're not complying. And in that SWIFT, that's our main dominance now. Unfortunately, folks, we're going to get into this in the next week or two, and I think you're going to be encouraged. We're going to talk about the petrodollar, what it means, why it was the beginning of the American dream. But what happened since then? What gave us the American dream? What gave us the ability to expand wealth, to think of ourselves as wealthy? Even small entrepreneur, small little capitalists were becoming wealthy. Why? New monetary system. And we had an almost unimpeded enemy. At that time, we crushed the Soviet Union, so we were pretty much in control. But while we were sleeping since this '08 crash, we had a new administration and a new way of looking into, let's just say, the world. And we allowed what was known as BRICS to develop. The BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa formed an allegiance. Now, it hasn't died. I know Brazil has been having some tough times with their economy. They have slowed down. Maybe people think even India might be giving them a little cold shoulder, but folks, no. Within the BRICS, what happened, and I would love to get deeper into this. I can't wait, especially for Chicago and San Francisco, to start introducing you to the teachings of the Chinese and the Silk Road. But the BRICS were formed. China, Russia were the real main players. In doing so, China was instituting an ancient trade route known as the Silk Road. It goes way, way back to where China was taking goods through Europe or to Europe, and now they have secured almost all of the channel. They have their trucks, they have their rails, they have not only shipping lanes, but they've also controlled or starting to control and own the ports. So since China, what is it, maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, they surpassed the United States as the largest trading partner or largest exporter in the world. They became the larger economy on exporting, and they overtook the United States. Once they secured that role, and we all know this, of course, right? Because we don't allow even Walmart's now in China, isn't it? But what BRICS did, they ended up launching the 100 billion, which is really upwards of about 300 billion now. It's known as the New Development Bank. Now that is technically a mirror of our IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund of the West. So the New Development Bank was here to mirror the IMF of the West. So think about it, they're doing the Silk Road, they're setting up the routes and trades, and now they have an alliance with the New Development Bank. And that is really, I think, undervalued in conversation because they're setting up a mirror financial system in the East to take down the dominance of the dollar, not just through petrodollar, but through the reserve currency status. And we're going to get into that. Now, how does this impact all of us? It impacts us because it impacts our standard of living, our quality of life, and the inheritance we're going to have for our children's children, let alone our retirement, right? So consider this. Our share of the world economy itself has absolutely plunged. Now, we're going back really half since 1960. Now, think about that. We were the dominant economy going up to 1960, and since we plunged by half. That is a dramatic amount of decrease of our, now we're going to get into why, of course, and we know, especially here in the Midwest, I was born, well, I better not say that for Chicago, right? I'm born and raised in Detroit, and I still love you in Chicago. We're now cranking out just 25% of the wealth in the world each year. So think about it. We control the world's currency. Well, we did as dominant currency. We're going to get into why that's not true. China has now been put into the IMF as part of the reserve currency system. They only have a small portion now, but let's wait and see where that leads, because I'm gaming to tell you their goal is to become basically a mirrored counterpart to the United States. And it's going to impact our ability to function as a nation going forward with the standard of living we expect to have. And I think that's going to be a big deal for all of us, because we've had a perception that life should be a certain way. And we're finding out it's a little bit different than that, right? So if we're just doing 25% of now the global economy, why would that be the case? What's really happening, or what has been taking place to our dollar that maybe we weren't aware of? And so the BRICS have now developed, we let the cat out of the bag, it's too late, they're now secure. They control the trading, they control the financial aspect of the East, and they're making their moves on the dollar. And for those, I encourage you, let's say Chicago, San Francisco, I encourage you to go to wealthtransferministries.org if you want to. Look in the past library for the weekly television show and go look at the petrodollar series. Go look at the China into the SDR, Strategic Drawing Rights of the IMF series. I think it'll be very educational and very enlightening, because it'll lead you up to why this is impacting our ability to have a standard of living in the future. So look at this part of it here. This is now the long embarrassing, I like this, the embarrassing death of the dollar. The dollar, if most people should have this by now, but since 1913, when the dollar was really created and we started moving it into this Federal Reserve System, we have lost an astonishing 96% of our buying power. Now, I know, I hear the arguments from intelligent people, even lawyers. Well, you know, we make more money, of course, than we ever used to. Well, of course you do, but I guarantee the ratio has never kept up. That's why we need two-parent incomes. That's why we can't put ourselves through college like we did in the 70s. So I can go on and on with the examples, but I'm telling you, it has not kept up. If you're seeing in this chart here, since 1913, we are down now beyond the 1971 Bretton Woods time frame, or I'm sorry, coming off of ending it and coming off the gold exchange. And we are now in where the dollar reserve note that's in your wallet is at a reckoning time for something new. If you study reserve currencies, which we've done in the past as well and will continue to do in the future, you'll see that the dollar's time, the dollar reserve note that's in your wallet right now, has a time limit, and it's well over its 40 years, and it's getting ready to have a reckoning. That's why we have financial reckoning in their imagery back here, because we are having a reckoning. I would call it more of a reset. I would call it a realignment, and that's where the powers to be are shifting from the Middle East and around. So it's not the Middle East and the factors there. I think you're going to be quite stunned. You can always find series for that as well, but we're going to get into some of that here, describing the petrodollar next week. And when we get into that, I think you'll understand it's never about the money or the profits that oil brought us. It was about the dollar itself. And we're going to get into describing that. Why is it important though? What happened first? And let me do this real quick before I get into showing you these charts as to two accords that actually took down the dollar's dominance and supremacy and how it's been orchestrated. And I think you'll understand. So let me take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Terrorism, a volatile stock market, rising food costs, natural disasters. Every day our economy is at risk, but your assets should not be. Cornerstone Asset Metals is here to help you protect and preserve what you have worked so hard to gain. Whether you have IRAs to protect, 401ks to preserve, or cash in the bank, our accredited asset management specialists are here to support you. Call now and we'll send you urgent information regarding changes to the dollar and challenges to our economy that you need to be prepared for. Learn how easy it is to roll over your current IRA or 401k into a physical precious metals IRA. We can even arrange to have your precious metals stored in a private vault or send it directly to your home. Do not delay. Call 888-747-3309 or register online at cornerstoneassetmetals.com today. Invest in precious metals and create security in your future today. Call now.
Welcome back. Now, I want to get into two actual accords that took place here in the handful of decades to just kind of give you an idea why it's an orchestrated effort in, let's just say, the fiat control system. Now, it'd be all the central banks, it'd be the central bankers, the brokerages, the brokers. Unfortunately, God bless them, if your financial advisor is a Christian, a good person, but they're educated by the systems of the world, which the Bible says is Lucifer in its influence and control. God gave us dominion over things of the earth and tangible. So keep in mind that the fiat system of currency, this Federal Reserve note that you have, actually, this one is. Normally I have an actual silver certificate in here. So somehow I got hoodwinked to put in a Federal Reserve note in here. But this Federal Reserve note in your wallet isn't even a dollar. It's almost shameful they call it a dollar, because Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution stated that Congress has a right to coin money. Money was grains of silver. 31 grams equaled the value of our buying power. And the best example, and I think I'll veer off just a little bit what I think I was going to do because I think it's important even for a new audience. Let's do it this way. Back in 71, just about that time, this dollar bill and this, let's do this one, it's more visual. This dollar bill and this silver, not exactly this one, it was only 1 ounce, but they were equal. So what you did is you took your paper dollar, it was known as a silver certificate. So you took your paper dollar to the bank and they gave you your silver. They were equal. Now, if that's were true, they both at that time probably bought about 5 gallons of gas. So this would buy you 5 gallons of gas, this bought you 5 gallons of gas. They're equal, they're fungible, we call it in the financial world. Now, unfortunately, after 71, it was a permanent break on the gold standard. This became its own. And the silver became its own. Silver is now an industrial commodity. It's not even a tier 1 asset like gold. And the dollar is known as the Federal Reserve note. Now, to some people that are deep into the prepping and the understanding of kind of our calamity we're facing, they know this stuff. But for those that don't, this is really important to understand. The Federal Reserve note's not real. It's literally a note. And think about what a note is. It's a debt instrument, meaning somebody owns you. The real dollar bill, which next time I'll make sure I have, that says silver certificate, it was real and tangible. When they divorced, of course, they had their own past. So here we go. We're 40 years up. They were equal. They bought 5 gallons of gas. Everything was good. Now they're divorced. I go and sell my silver today, right now. Not only do I get to buy the same 5 gallons of gas I did 40 plus years ago, I can buy almost a whopping 9 to 10. Of course, that fluctuates. But think about it. Not only do I preserve the 5 gallons of gas over the 40 years for buying power and sustained wealth, I've doubled my ability to buy. And I know the arguments, oh, some things go down in price, some go up in price, but folks, I'm telling you, overall, we are getting drained on our ability to purchase and our buying power is being depleted. And how do I know this? I go and sell my silver right now because instead of storing this all these years, I stuck with God. Hey, Guy 2.8, the silver's mine. And now I go and sell my silver, and like I said, I could buy almost double the gas. Well, let me ask you this. If you take this right now to go buy gas, how many do you get? Right? Quarter gallon? So what do you want in your wallet right now if you were thinking about savings? Something that gets you a quarter gallon or 9 gallons over time? That's known as buying power. What we're storing gives us the ability to buy more or less in the future. And some of this seems pretty basic, but I just want to do a 101 on it. That's the essence of what we've been fooled with and what we need to understand. So I don't have a whole lot of time, but I have just enough to maybe do this to give you an idea. Well, I won't. I'll save this for next time. Let me do this. I only got about 45 seconds, but let me get this. These accords I want to get into now are orchestrated fiat, let's just say central bank, they would call them strategies. It was a strategy, all right, but it was a strategy to allow them to dilute your ability to buy, hence the 9 gallons, remember, with the silver, and then half a gallon with the dollar, and still maintain some kind of a visual that they're in charge and we're moving forward and we're growing in our economy. So keep in mind that it's an illusion and it's perception. But here at Wealth Transfer, our goal, and it has been for years, is to be watchmen on the wall. Be here to look out for you, your assets, and to help you kind of understand how to protect it, how to preserve it, and more importantly, for your church, your ministry, and your children and your children's children. So we're going to get more deep as this goes on. I think for the new viewers, again, welcome. You're going to like it. You're going to like I would say the strategic and tactical analysis that's going to come, because it's going to come from angles that you're not typically getting in a finance show. So until then, God bless you. We'll catch you next week.